Ever get that rush when you're reading a fantasy story and the main character finally like unlocks a new power? Or they master some difficult spell or find some legendary weapon?
Oh, yeah, for
You
sure.
know what I mean?
I think,
It's a good feeling.
yeah, it's that sense of progression,
Yeah.
especially in fantasy when it's like magic or something, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And
You're kind of like, wow.
it's like they've been working towards this the whole time and they finally get it. And now imagine that, but it's structured like a video game, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like they have levels and skills and stats and all.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
But it's all still happening within this really cool fantasy world.
So you get the best of both worlds, kind of.
Yeah, basically.
You get the immersive fantasy, but also like the concrete sense of achievement that you get from a game.
Exactly. Like you're leveling up alongside the character in a way.
Yeah, like you're part of the journey.
And that's what lit RPG is all about.
It's a really cool genre,
It is.
and it's getting super popular. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah, we're going deep on this one.
We are going deep.
Get ready.
We're doing a deep dive on a review of the Primal Hunter 12 by Zogarth.
Ooh, a classic.
It is a classic.
Number 12 already. Wow.
Yeah, this is the latest one,
That's awesome.
and this review is by the critic Bruce Santucci.
Oh, I like his stuff.
Yeah, he's great.
He really knows his lit RPG.
He does. So if you're already a fan of the Primal Hunter series, then, you know
what's up.
what's up exactly.
Yeah.
But even if you're just like curious about this whole genre,
Yeah, like if you're just dipping your toes in.
yeah, if you're like, what is this?
What is a lit RPG? Tell me more.
Then this deep dive is for you.
Absolutely.
Because we're going to break down everything that makes this book and the genre so engaging.
We're talking plot, character development, themes, what keeps readers glued to the pages.
Yeah, we're going to cover it all. So by the end of this, you'll have like a cheat sheet.
Yeah, like a crash course.
Yeah, to this whole world.
Awesome.
So let's jump right in. The Primal Hunter 12 picks up with Jake,
Our main man.
the Primal Hunter himself.
Love that guy.
And Santucci reminds us that Jake started out as just this normal office worker, you know?
Yeah, like just a regular dude.
Totally. And now he's in this crazy multiverse that's run by this game-like system.
It's wild.
It is so wild.
So like he levels up and gains skills and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly like a video game, but real.
I love that concept.
It's so cool. And in this book, Jake and his crew,
His party.
his party, yeah, they're reaching this crucial point in a dungeon.
Oh, dungeons.
I know this dungeon is called Nevermore.
Nevermore. I like the sound of that.
It sounds intense.
It does.
And Santucci really emphasizes that this dungeon is a big deal.
Like it's not just some random cave.
No, it's like the ultimate proving ground for powerful people.
Oh, wow.
And even the gods are paying attention
Oh, why?
because of these leaderboards.
Oh, so it's like a competition.
It is a huge competition.
Interesting.
It's like everyone wants to be at the top of the Nevermore leaderboards.
Yeah. So the stakes are super high then.
Yeah, it's not just about surviving the dungeon, it's about being the best.
That adds a whole other layer to it.
It does. So Santucci lays out the main mission for Jake and his party
Which is
to conquer the Nevermore leaderboards.
it's to be number one.
They want to claim the top spot.
That's ambitious.
It is. And the book is all about their final climb to the top.
I love a good climb.
It's exciting. And Jake's party is pretty awesome.
Tell me about them.
Well, there's Sylphie, his hawk companion.
A hawk. That's awesome.
I know, right?
So cool.
And Santucci describes her as having this playful loyalty.
I bet she's like the heart of the group.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's the Sword Saint.
Classic.
I know, such a classic.
Like the ultimate warrior.
Yeah, and he's all about stoic wisdom.
So he's like the level-headed one.
Yeah, he keeps everyone grounded.
That's important in a high-pressure situation.
For sure. And then there's the Fallen King.
Ooh, that sounds ominous.
It does, right?
Yeah, like what's his story?
You know, well, he's a mage.
Powerful.
Very powerful.
But fallen.
But fallen, exactly. Santucci says he's pretty reserved.
So mysterious.
Very mysterious. But I bet he has a fascinating backstory.
I hope we get to learn more about him.
I think we will.
Can't wait.
So this party, they're all working together to climb the leaderboards.
It's like that classic idea of teamwork making the dream work.
Exactly. You know, solo strength can only take you so far, especially in a place like Nevermore.
Yeah, especially with those crazy labyrinths Santucci was talking about.
Oh, yeah, those sound intense.
And don't forget, they're not the only ones trying to reach the top.
Oh, right. Other groups are competing too.
So it's like a race to the finish line.
It is a race, and it's super tense.
I bet.
And get this, the gods are involved too.
The gods, what do you mean?
Yeah, Santucci says they're like placing bets on who's going to win.
Like it's some kind of divine sporting event?
Yeah, basically they're watching everything and interfering sometimes.
Wow. So Jake and his party have to deal with that on top of everything else.
They do. It's crazy.
That's intense.
It is. And it's kind of like how we think about technology today. You know,
Oh, how so?
like technology can be so powerful and helpful, but it can also be used to manipulate and control.
Right, like who's really in control?
Yeah, exactly. It's a question we're always grappling with.
And it's cool to see those themes reflected in fantasy.
It is. It adds another layer to the story.
So what about this malefic viper?
Oh, yeah. Santucci mentioned Jake has a connection to this specific god,
Just patron, right?
his patron, the malefic viper.
That sounds kind of scary.
It does. But apparently their interactions are hilarious.
Really? Like a god with a sense of humor.
I know, right? Santucci describes it as humorous yet insightful banter.
So it's not just jokes, there's depth to it.
Yeah, it's like comic relief, but it also helps us understand Jake better.
I love that. Me too. And it makes me wonder what kind of humor works best in a story like this.
Yeah, like is it witty banter or more situational humor?
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think it often depends on the characters and the tone of the story.
Look, like in this case with Jake and the malefic viper, I bet the humor comes from the power imbalance between them.
That makes sense, like a god hanging out with a mortal.
Exactly. And that unexpected informality can be really funny.
Yeah, and the fact that Santucci called it insightful makes me think it's not just for laughs.
Right. It probably helps Jake grow as a character.
Yeah, like maybe the malefic viper gives him advice or challenges his way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be really compelling to read.
Totally. And speaking of growth, Santucci also highlights Jake's emotional journey in this book.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, he's really starting to reflect on how much he's changed.
Like from office worker to primal hunter.
Exactly. And he's noticing the contrast between his old lone wolf tendencies.
Right, like he used to do everything on his own.
Exactly. And now he's a leader.
He's got a whole party to think about.
Exactly. He's responsible for them.
That's a huge shift.
It is. And he's struggling with it, you know?
Like how to balance his independence with his responsibility to his team.
Exactly. It's like he wants to protect them, but he also doesn't want to lose himself in the process.
That's so relatable.
It is, right. Like
Yeah.
everyone struggles with that balance in their lives.
Yeah, like work versus personal life or needing help versus wanting to do it all yourself.
Exactly. It's a universal theme.
And it's cool to see it play out in this epic fantasy setting.
It adds depth to the story.
And to Jake as a character.
Definitely, he's not just a hero. He's a complex person with real struggles.
And that's what makes him so compelling.
Absolutely. So all of this leads up to the climax of the book,
Jeez.
a massive boss battle.
Of course.
I know it's like the ultimate test for Jake and his party.
So it's not just about individual strength anymore.
No, they have to work together.
Like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, they need to use all their skills and strategies and trust each other.
And what happens?
Well, Santucci says they win.
They do.
They do. They beat the boss and claim the top spot on the leaderboards.
So they achieved their goal.
They did.
That's awesome.
It is, but Santucci also hints that there were sacrifices along the way.
Oh, so it's not a completely happy ending.
No, there's a bitter sweetness to it.
Like maybe they lost something or someone important.
Maybe. And there's still some unanswered questions.
So it leaves you wanting more.
Exactly.
That
Which is perfect for a series.
keeps you hooked for the next book.
Definitely. And it's also more realistic, you know?
Right, like even in victory, there can be loss or consequences.
Exactly. And that's something to think about in our own lives, too.
Like every decision has a ripple effect.
True. So as we shift our focus back to character development, Santucci really breaks down that central tension within Jake.
The lone wolf versus the leader.
Yeah, exactly. He's naturally independent, but he's being forced to embrace this leadership role.
Because he's responsible for his party now.
Right. And Santucci makes it clear that Jake is growing emotionally.
Like he's maturing as a person.
Yeah, he's learning to trust others and rely on them.
That's huge for someone who used to be a lone wolf.
It is, and it's a classic character arc, you know?
Yeah, like the hero learning to let go of his ego.
Exactly, and it's done really well here.
And what about the other characters? Do they get any development?
They do. Santucci says they all get some nice little moments.
Like Sylphie the hawk?
Yeah, her playful loyalty is a constant source of warmth for the group.
Ah, she sounds adorable.
She does. And the Sword Saint, with his stoic wisdom,
He's always there to offer guidance.
yep, he's like the wise mentor figure.
And the fallen king.
Even he opens up a bit.
Really?
Yeah, Santucci says he reveals some of his past.
So he's not as mysterious as he seems.
Maybe not, he's becoming more well-rounded.
That's great. I love when side characters get development.
Me too. It makes
Yeah.
me feel like real people.
And it makes the story richer.
Exactly. So what about reader engagement?
Yeah, like what keeps people coming back for more?
Well, Santucci points to a few key factors.
Like what?
First off, the action is intense.
Oh, yeah, that's a given.
I know, right? The Nevermore dungeon is full of danger, and the leaderboard competition is fierce.
So you're always on the edge of your seat.
Exactly. You want to see if Jake and his party can overcome the challenges.
And that ties into the whole litrpg element, right?
Yes, the game-like structure is a huge draw for a lot of readers.
Like seeing the characters level up and gain new skills.
Exactly, and Santucci says that the litrpg mechanics in this book are really well done.
Like they're detailed, but not overwhelming.
Yeah, they're complex enough to be interesting, but they don't bog down the story.
That's a tough balance to strike.
It is, but when it's done right, it's so satisfying.
It's like you're leveling up alongside the character.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the humor.
Oh, yeah, the Malefic Viper.
He's a riot.
He sounds like a fun character.
He is. He adds a lot of levity to the story.
Which is important when things are so intense.
For sure. You need those moments of comic relief.
And don't forget the tension.
Oh, yeah, that constant pressure of the competition.
Like knowing that other groups are right there vying for the top spot.
It keeps you guessing who's going to win.
And it makes the stakes feel even higher.
Absolutely. And lastly, Santucci mentions the emotional depth of the story.
Oh, yeah, like how Jake is struggling with his leadership role.
Yeah, and the strong bond between him and his party.
It's like they're a family.
They are, in a way. And that adds a lot of heart to the adventure.
It makes you care about what happens to them.
Exactly. It's not just about the action and the leveling up.
It's about the characters and their relationships.
And their growth as individuals.
Which is what makes a story truly memorable.
Totally. But no book is perfect, right?
Right. Every book has its strengths and weaknesses.
And Santucci does have a couple of criticisms.
Like what?
Well, he mentions that the pacing felt a bit uneven at times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says some sections, particularly the labyrinth challenges, dragged a bit.
I can see that labyrinths can be tricky to write.
You don't want to get too bogged down in the detail.
Right. You need to keep the story moving.
Exactly. And Santucci also suggests that the book could have explored Jake's emotional struggles more deeply.
Oh.
Yeah, like he reflects on his growth, but maybe we could have gotten even more insight into his inner turmoil.
That would have added another layer to his character.
It would have. But overall, Santucci gives the Primal Hunter 12 a solid 4 out of 5 stars.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a high rating.
So what were his main takeaways?
He loved the action-packed plot, the detailed lit RPG elements, and the focus on Jake's solo challenge.
And the party dynamics.
He praised those too. He said they were well-developed and entertaining.
So it sounds like a really enjoyable read.
It does. And he concludes that it's a great addition to the series, especially for existing fans.
But what about new readers?
He thinks it might be a bit less accessible for them.
Because they won't have the context of the previous books.
Exactly. But if you're looking to jump into lit RPG, this could still be a good starting point.
Especially if you're okay with doing a little bit of catching up.
Exactly. And now for the recommendations.
Yes, tell us what else we should be reading.
Okay, so first up, Santucci suggests Defiance of the Fall by the First to Fire.
That sounds intense.
It does.
Right.
And it's similar to the Primal Hunter in a lot of ways.
Like how?
Well, the main character, Zack, starts out as a lone wolf and becomes super powerful in this multiverse with leveling systems.
So like Jake?
Yeah, exactly. But Defiance of the Fall also has base building.
Oh, cool. Like you get to create your own stronghold.
Yeah, and the tone is a bit darker and more ruthless.
So for readers who like their stories a little bit grittier.
Exactly. And then Santucci recommends He Who Fights with Monsters by Shertlin.
Now that sounds more lighthearted.
It does, right.
Like maybe with some humor.
Yeah, there's definitely humor in it.
What's it about?
Well, it follows Jason, who gets transported to this magical world.
So like a classic isekai?
Kind of, but there's a really well-defined magic system.
So it has that lit RPG element of progression.
Exactly. And Santucci really liked the humor and the moral dilemmas in the story.
Oh, interesting. Like the characters face tough choices.
Yeah, and he also highlighted Jason's snarky personality.
So like a witty protagonist.
Yeah, and the world building is supposed to be really good too.
Sounds like a fun read.
It does. And then there's Azarinth Healer by Rhaegar.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing.
It is right. This one's about Aelea, who's a combat healer.
A combat healer? That's unique.
Yeah, she's like a warrior who can also heal people.
So she's on the front lines.
Yeah, she's in the thick of the action.
I like that.
And her journey is all about action, skill progression, and character growth.
So similar to Jake's journey in a way.
Definitely. And Santucci thinks fans of the Primal Hunter would enjoy the fast-paced storytelling.
So if you like action-packed narratives, this is the one for you.
And lastly, Santucci recommends The Wandering Inn by Pirate Ateba.
Now that sounds cozy.
It does,
Right.
but it's actually a pretty epic fantasy series.
Really? What's it about?
Well, it's about these characters from Earth who find themselves in a world full of monsters and magic.
So like a portal fantasy?
Yeah, kind of, but it's much slower paced than the Primal Hunter.
Oh, interesting. So more focus on character development then.
Exactly. Santucci says the character development is amazing.
Like deep and nuanced.
Yeah, and there's a good mix of humor and tragedy.
So it's a roller coaster of emotions,
It is, and he thinks fans of Jake's emotional journey would really appreciate it.
even if it's not as action-packed.
Exactly. So that's it for our recommendations.
Wow, that's a lot of books to add to my TBR pile.
I know, right? But they all sound so good.
They do. So to wrap up our deep dive today, we've explored Bruce Santucci's review of the Primal Hunter 12.
We've talked about Jake's final challenges, his party, the intense competition, the emotional moments.
We've also looked at Santucci's criticisms and his recommendations for similar books.
And hopefully this has given you a good sense of what the Primal Hunter 12 and the litrpg genre are all about.
It's a fascinating genre that blends fantasy with gaming in a really compelling way.
And it makes you think about those classic themes of individual strength versus the power of teamwork.
Yeah, like when do we need to rely on ourselves and when do we need to ask for help?
It's a question we all face in our own lives.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day, think about the leaderboards you're trying to climb.
And how you balance your own ambitions with a need to collaborate and connect with others.
It's something to ponder until our next deep dive.
Until next time.
See you then.